We are starting in banana asana. So bring your left heel to the left corner of your yoga mat. Cross your right ankle over. If that's too much, you can always just have your legs like right next to each other. Stretch your arms over your head, maybe grabbing opposite elbows or cactusing your arms. And if you're not feeling it enough, you can also shift your shoulders to the left more. So take a big full inhale, and with your exhale, just sigh out. Infinite stars, infinite space, source of the knowledge of the world, giver of thoughts that empower creation, transforming light into the elements of matter, radiate before my mind, the 7 keys that unlock the doors of the mystery temple, that I may enter and fulfill the purpose for which my birth initiates. Notice if you can remember any of your dreams. Take some moments to see and observe how your thinking has been this morning, even if it's just been a little while. Notice what's alive in your feelings and your attitude and how quickly that can change. And notice sensations in your body. Sometimes sensations come as quickly as a change of mood or a change of feeling, but often our body is a little slower. Slower to digest something or heal something or let it go. And maybe notice if you have a wish lingering around you or an intention or a virtue you're trying to live into more. And then start to move your way back to center. sounding, wiggling, whatever you need, and then find your way into the other side. So take your right heel to the right corner of your yoga mat and either put your left leg next to your leg or hook your ankle over your heel over your ankle. One of the books I often read in the mornings before teaching class is right now I've been reading slowly or at a very lovely, consistent pace. I've been reading Climate, the New Story by Charles Eisenstein. And with an understanding that we're seeing the same flavor challenges in all areas of our life. And how Charles Eisenstein relates that to the environment and the agricultural practices doesn't actually stop there. So when we think of, right now we've hit this wall, so to say, or who are we kidding? We plowed over the wall years ago. But now we're starting to notice the results of our choices in a much more palpable, in your face kind of way. And as in the company we're in right now, you find yourself around people who have studied a lot of alternative agriculture and regenerative agriculture, biodynamics, and all sorts of variations on that theme. We've learned that there's so many different solutions to heal the toxicity of how conventional farming practices have become, or how the toxicity that they have perpetuated. Now wiggle your way back to center and lift your feet up for happy baby. Letting your whole spine lengthen on the ground. Pulling on your feet to let your knees become more heavy and drop towards your armpits. And the question is posed right now in the book, which is, why don't we have more regenerative agriculture in places? Why isn't that coming to the rescue kind of thing? And the reason why it's not is because it doesn't fit into our industrial model where our big economy is so plugged into. And it got me to thinking, because the challenge with having any of this regenerative alternative like agriculture is that you have to participate and be on the ground, literally, in the place you are, in the microclimate you find yourself in the changing conditions from year to year. You have to be personally involved. Your input matters. Your observation matters. Your choices matter. And our environments and microclimates and different areas of the world are so different that we can't standardize regenerative agriculture, because that's exactly the problem. You can't standardize the complexity of the earth. You can't standardize how one valley is going to be compared to the next valley, or how one valley in Austria is very different than a valley in California. And our oversimplified warfare style of farming has accomplished what warfare accomplishes, which is killing all life. And it's this absence of individuals actively participating in a meaningful way that is warfare, that does deplete something. And when I read about these kind of things, and when I contemplate these things, I again and again think about, okay, I'm not a farmer, but how am I participating? And how am I doing the same thing in one other area of my life? So hug your knees to your chest. Maybe just rock side to side a little bit. And then rock back and forth and find enough momentum to come into Sphinx pose. So whenever I withhold myself from something, and I'm not meaning like, of course we have to temper, like maybe keep a mean word to ourselves and not say it out loud and work to heal that in ourselves. But I mean, when I withhold my beingness and my individuality and my life force from whatever it is I'm doing, that becomes destructive. So even if someone says like sorry and doesn't have any of their beingness in that, it is hurtful instead of helpful. Or, if I show up, but I'm not actually participating, I'm withholding my contribution. That is a small echo of the same problem that is depleting the very, fecundity, the very richness of our earth. Feel free to close your eyes or drop your head or do some neck rolls. Every time we are dismissive or reflexive without participating in our own responses or choices, it's a missed opportunity. It's like withholding your love from the world. And it's a disservice to say love is always like puppy dogs and balloons and flowers. And this misunderstanding is often why people withhold and keep too much of themselves kind of cloistered away in the dark corners of their mind. But just even for an hour or 10 minutes or the day today, notice if you withhold yourself from what you are participating in. I mean, you see, even, you don't have to look to industrial farming to see this gaping wound. But even if I reflect on, different institutions or traditions or philosophies, whatnot, like for instance, with anthroposophy, there's a lot of people who have had such reverence for Rudolf Steiner's contribution that they amplify his intention or voice or words over their own and withdraw their own participation in deference to the amazingness of Rudolf Steiner. And unfortunately, just like in our farming, the intention might be great. It might be to feed the whole world. It might be to be as good as Rudolf Steiner. But unfortunately, it doesn't work. It kills the whole thing. Because our participation enlivens and contemporizes something and makes it relevant. So effort to notice what you withhold or what you actually think or what you really feel. Beware of the stories you read or tell subtly at night beneath the watery consciousness. They are altering your world. That was written by Ben Okri. And then just slowly lower yourself down from Sphinx pose, maybe wiggling your hips side to side or shaking your legs side to side. And then shift yourself back into child's pose. And before we start to burn a fire, I'm just going to echo the same thing again with Hafiez's words from the 1300s, still relevant, still a contribution because he poured himself into his work. What we speak becomes the house we live in. Who will want to sleep in your bed if the roof leaks right above it? Look what happens when the tongue cannot say to kindness, I will be your slave. The moon covers her face with both hands and can't bear to look. With your next inhale, you're going to shift forward and come to your elbows and knees first. And then yogi's choice, we're moving into dolphin. So you can either interlace your fingers or just have your forearms flat with your middle finger lined up with the bone of your forearm. And then from here, tuck your toes under and start to lengthen your legs. Then as you're ready, you can start to maybe tiptoe your feet a little bit closer to your elbows and notice what turns on when you go there. And then, making sure you have space to relax your head and shake your head and say yes, no, or gesture yes, no. Then take your gaze a little bit forward towards your hands and inhale, lift up your right leg. And then switch your legs. And then with your exhale, come back down, drop your knees, let your hips shift back to child's pose. Maybe your arms back behind you, whatever feels nice for your shoulders. And then slide forward, come to your elbows again. Start with your knees and elbows. And this time you're going to straighten your legs out and come into forearm plank. So you want to feel that you're reaching with your heels, your abdominals are pulling up, lifting up in between your shoulder blades. We're going to stay here for a little bit. So find your breath fueling you. Notice how you react when you're challenged, or maybe not challenged enough. Do you draw back or do you lean in? How are you? Over halfway. Notice what you can enliven and help participate with. For 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ha! And then lower down and push back to child's pose one more time. In child's pose, you can feel that you've stoked the fire. You can feel the center warming up. We can nearly feel like this fire is our liveliness. One more time, come forward to your elbows. Tuck your toes under, come up into dolphin pose. And this time, see if maybe you can walk your feet a little bit closer, but you notice you're still reaching your chest back towards your hips. Now, either lift one leg at a time, or if it's not too soon for you, you're welcome to do some jumping a little bit, but you really want to be soft in your landings. So even just practice landing softly as part of the journey. Find the length in your spine. Notice if your elbows are sliding out to the sides. Beautiful. And then find your way back to child's pose. Then stretch your arms forward, tuck your toes under, and come up into the gloriously spacious downward facing dog. Now start with your peripheries. Notice how your hands are and how your feet are. This is where you're meeting the earth. In our physiology, we're even designed to take in qualities that surround us, not just through our eyes and ears and nose and mouth, but through our skin and through our bones. Take another full inhale. Empty your breath all the way. Look forward and lightly hop your feet quietly up in between your hands. Inhale, halfway lift. Feel free to let your arms fly as little wings or big wings. Exhale, release and bow down, hugging the back of your knees if you'd like, letting your head drop. Let your knees be soft. And then root down and roll all the way up to the ceiling, to the sky, stretch up tall. And with your exhale, samastitihi. Inhale, reach your arms up high. Exhale, bow forward, softening your knees. Allow your vinyasa to be fluid. Inhale, halfway lift. And now either step to plank or jump to chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog or low cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. Feel a small bend in your knees allows you more freedom to pull your hips up and back, which allows your spine to stretch more and straighten more. Fuel up with an inhale, empty your breath all the way, lightly hop your feet in between your hands. Inhale, halfway lift, drag your chest forward, maybe fly your arms. Exhale, release and bow down. Root down and roll up, stretch up tall. And with your exhale, samastitihi. Inhale, stretch your arms up. Exhale, bow forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Walk or float. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog or low cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, stretch your right leg up to the sky. And just find a couple like movements of your hips. So maybe you bend your knee, make some circles. Maybe you just open and close your hip. But you want to notice, first of all, that it's really actually challenging and hard to be aware of what your hips are doing. And then bend your knee and all together roll your right hip open, keeping your shoulders square to the yoga mat. Take another full inhale, and with your exhale, step your right foot all the way forward to your right thumb. Let your left knee come down and rise up for supported crescent lunge. Now, maybe slide your your left knee back a little bit. Squeeze your inner thighs together, feel your root lock, and then get long in between your ribs and your hips, and then see if you have a little bit more space to reach back. And with your next exhale, you're going to straighten your right leg and bow over your right knee. Feel a stretch come into your hamstring. You want to be subtly pulling the outside of your right hip back. Your toes active. Where are you in your body? Are you participating to your peripheries and beyond? Hinge forward, bring your hands next to your right foot, tuck your left toes under, step back to plank and lower down chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog or low cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. Take a full breath in, and with your exhale, sigh it out. And then inhale, stretch your left leg long first, and then explore your left hip a little bit. So you can do this by bending your knee, making circles. You can also keep your leg straight and just open and close your hip. Of course, if you're feeling feisty, you could just reach your straight leg far forward as you can. And then everybody breathing through your nose, then bend your knee and let your hips spin open and just notice the reaction in your shoulders. So maybe you need to lift your right shoulder up a little bit as your hips try to twist open. Take another full inhale. And with your exhale, step your left foot next to your left thumb. Let your right knee come down to the ground. Inhale, lift up your arms. And then maybe explore. Maybe you should be sliding your right knee back a little bit, maybe not. Notice that when you energetically squeeze your thighs together, it's like you have support from below. Increase that support by engaging your root locks. Radiate your beingness even through your fingertips. Notice how much your participation enlivens your body. And then with your exhale, bring your hands down and hinge. So you take it to either side of your foot and you hinge back. Oh, sorry. It's all right. Coming into Hanumanasana preparation, really. But it's a nice hamstring stretch that's available to everyone. You want to subtly, especially if you're flexible, really concentrate on pulling the outside of your left hip back. Sometimes you need to bend your left knee a little bit to feel that access. Allow your breath and participation to be soft instead of contracting. And then rebend your left knee, frame out your left foot, tuck your right toes under, and reach back to plank pose. Mm-hmm. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog or low cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. Let your knees be soft and just notice, are you able to make your movements fluid or are they a little jerky? What happens when you check out? What happens when you check in? So even in our own dialogue with ourselves, we're ever striving to be more honest with ourselves, more accurate. Because our words are one of the many ways that we bring ourselves into the world, even into ourselves. Take another full inhale, empty your breath all the way, hop your feet quietly in between your hands. Inhale, drag your chest forward. Exhale, release and bow down, let your head drop. Now bend your knees, drop your booty, inhale, Utkatasana. And with your exhale, bend your elbows and pull your arms back in cactus arms. Feel your shoulders pulling back. Feel your elbows pulling back. Find the weight in your heels. Notice if your knees are inching forward, pull your knees back even. Now, with your next inhale, drop your hips lower and stretch your arms up, Utkatasana. And exhale, bow down. Inhale, halfway lift. Feel your abdominals engage. And exhale, chaturanga or the ground. Inhale, upward facing dog or low cobra, noticing if you dip your head before that move. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, stretch your right leg up to the sky. With your exhale, bend your knee, let your hips spin open. Inhale, get engaged here. And then with your exhale, step your right foot all the way forward to your right thumb. Rise up, crescent lunge. With your exhale, hinge your wings back, winged warrior. Inhale, crescent lunge, and with your exhale, open up, warrior two. Then inhale, reverse your triangle. And with your exhale, sweet chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog or low cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, stretch your left leg long. Exhale, bend your knee, let your hips spin open. Inhale, get active in the pose here. And with your exhale, step your left foot lightly next to your left thumb. Rise up, crescent lunge. Winged warrior, take your arms back, you hinge forward, abdominals engaged. Inhale, crescent lunge. And exhale, open up smoothly, warrior two. Inhale, reverse your triangle. And with your exhale, flow. Inhale, upward facing dog or low cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. Find a small bend in your knees. Notice how your temperature is, how your breathing is, and what that does for your active beingness inside your pose. Take another full fueling inhale. Empty your breath all the way and walk or float your feet in between your hands. Inhale, halfway lift, drag your chest forward, maybe fly your wings. Exhale, release and bow down. Bend your knees, drop your hips, inhale, Utkatasana. Exhale, open arm twist to your right, keeping your lower body still. Inhale up to center. Exhale, open arm twist to your left. Inhale up to center. Exhale, bow down. Inhale, halfway lift, feel your abdominals carrying you, ready? And then float to chaturanga or step back and lower down. Inhale, upward facing dog or low cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, stretch your right leg up to the sky. With your exhale, bend your knee. Now, yogi's choice. You can either hang out here for a moment or you can flip your dog. So in your flipping your dog, you follow your right foot all the way over. Now push down with your feet, lift up with your right arm, and then beautiful. So then reach to the front of the room with your right arm. And then reach your right arm straight up again. If you want, for a little cheat, you can turn your left toes out to the left, but stretch your right leg straight up to the sky. And if you start to fall, step into your fall and come all the way to the front of your mat with your right foot or next to your mat. And then however you get there, yogis, let's meet up, right foot in front, crescent lunge. Feel the strength in your legs, and with your exhale, open arm twist to your right. Inhale up to center, crescent lunge, and with your exhale, fly into warrior three. Now bring your hands to heart center, wrap your thumbs with your fingers and flex your left foot, and you're going to slowly open up into half moon. And then with your exhale, come to warrior two. Inhale, reverse your warrior. Your triangle. And with your exhale, Trikonasana. Take one more full extending inhale, enliven yourself. And with your exhale, you're going to bend your right knee and bring both of your hands down to the yoga mat with your left heel lifting. Now, you're going to bend your elbows, and this brings your weight forward. As a training wheel, you can bring your left elbow to your left hip, but you don't need to. And then stretch your legs out. And Exhale, lift your left leg high to get to chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog or low cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. Beautiful. Inhale, stretch your left leg up to the sky. Exhale, bend your knee, let your hips spin open. Now, yogi, either stay here or flip your dog. Lift up with your hips, push down with your feet, reach up with your left hand first, and then see if you can find space to reach your hand to the front of the room or maybe the floor. And then take your gaze back up to the ceiling. Maybe take a little kickstand motion with your right foot and inhale, lift your left leg straight up to the sky. And if you start to fall, step into it. And if you're not falling now, step into it and step your left foot forward. And everybody, yogis, meet up in crescent lunge with your left foot forward. Raise your arms up. And with your exhale, open arm twist to your left. Inhale up to center, crescent lunge, and exhale, fly your airplane. Woohoo! Now bring your hands to heart center, and you're gonna wrap your thumbs. Now flex your right foot, feel your hip opening up, and open up your arms. The slower you go, the stronger you'll get, I know. And then maybe your left hand comes down to the floor. With your next exhale, you're going to come to warrior two by bending your left knee and letting your right foot come to the back of your yoga mat. Inhale, reverse your triangle pose. And with your exhale, Trikonasana. Feel the tuck of the left buttocks. We're taking a couple of breaths here. Enliven your posture by allowing your presence to be in all of your limbs. And then you're going to bend your left knee, let your right heel lift up, and bring both hands to the inside of your left foot. So the training wheel on this side is your right elbow catching your right hip. Bend your elbows and the weight comes to your hands, and then stretch your legs out, stretch your toes out, lift your right leg high to have room to come back to chaturanga. Exhale, inhale, upward facing dog or low cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. And then drop your knees down to the ground and come to the tall version of yourself on your knees. Bring your hands behind your back. Inhale, lift up your chest, create space first, and then move into the space. Letting your hips slide forward, your head drop back. Maybe you drop your hands down to your heels. If that's not easy, you can try it with your toes tucked under. But feel where you like to hide away in the posture and where do you like to be. And then with your inhale, lift up, and with your exhale, come into child's pose. So child's pose or sitting on your knees, that's also an option. Sometimes people prefer actually to be lifted here. I know, I actually do. But what we want is this effort and then recovery. And then from child's pose, slide forward with your elbows from being on your shins, come forward to your elbows also, and tuck your toes under. Walk your feet as close to your heels as you can, look forward. And then yogi's choice, either lift one leg at a time or try jumping, and maybe even just try jumping without turning towards the wall or moving your mat. You probably didn't need to move your mat, but you're doing great. So you want to effort gently. You don't want to override anything, but you want to soften into the pose rather than force yourself into the pose. And then come back down to child's pose. Let your arms come back behind you. If it's more comfortable for you to be seated on your knees, that's fine too. Now, if you oriented your mat close to a wall for your forearm balance, you might even use it in your camel pose. So inhale, lift up, come up onto your knees again. Now, you can always come to a wall and also start to walk your hands down for your camel pose, a different variation. But bring your hands to your hips, behind your back somehow. Let your hips come forward, lift up, create space, and then bow into that space. Like you're arching over a big, yeah, nice one. So you're on your way to Kapotasana. It's quite intense variation. And then inhale, lift up. Exhale, come into a restorative, regenerative pose. So child's pose or sitting on your knees. And just to clarify, when you go on the wall with your arms up over the top, you're going to Kapotasana, which means that you're eventually, I'm not going to show you because I'm not warmed up here, but you eventually come with your head in between your heels. Oh yeah, eventually. All right. One more time. Come up onto your elbows. Maybe hold your forearm balance. Maybe do it against the wall. Maybe don't do it against the wall. You can also do a scorpion variation if it's in your practice. So think about landing softly. Try to work your hips over your shoulders first. So you walk your toes towards you as much as you can. Very nice. And get active in your legs when you're lifting up. So you want to feel that you're reaching up to the sky. Breathe into it. Push down. Get alive in your posture. Lengthen your spine. And then find your way back home to the yoga mat. You're welcome. So one of the very simple ideas of yoga is to stay grounded and oriented in yourself and be present in yourself, no matter which way the world is turned. And then find your way onto your back. We're going to close with a twist. You're going to take your right knee over your left knee and then hug your knees to your chest and then drop your knees to the left-hand side. Take a full breath in, and with your exhale, just sigh it out. Our participation is so what's the word for it? It's such a big deal already. It's not like, even if you don't think you're participating, you're participating. So all of like the withholding or the dark thoughts or the shame or anger of all of these kind of corrosive states of being, it doesn't just stay in ourselves. It's like all around us and feeds that in other people when we are indulgent in those places in ourselves. With your next inhale, bring your knees back to center, unwind your legs, and wind your left knee over your right knee. Start by pulling your knees to your chest first, and then softly allowing your knees to drop to the right hand side. So it's a little bit like, it's not quite the right term, right? So it's not quite like your participation is required. You're already participating, but your engagement with yourself is required if you want your participation to be acts of kindness. And these don't even have to be like, it doesn't even have to be an act that goes outside of your body. An act can even be of kindness, can even be to think good thoughts around people, to feel good feelings around people. We are so interconnected and so sensitive to each other and so vital for each other. That your inner work changes everything. And then when you're ready, find your way back to center and stretch your legs long, coming into Shavasana. With your next inhale, invite your breath to the edges of your body. Look at your fingers and your toes. And then stretch your arms long over your head. Feel the inhale fill you up. And with your exhale, curl onto your side, hugging your knees to your chest. And then help yourself up into a comfortable seated position. Allow your hands to meet at heart center. Feel that you're lifting your chest up into your thumbs, pushing down on your sternum. Close your eyes. Engage your root lock. And we're going to end with one final Om. So take a exhale first, and then we can inhale together. Take a deep inhale. Ah. Bring your prayer hands to your third eye. Invite the divine light. And as we bow forward together, we say, Namaste. And so much love. Yeah. Thank you so much for your effort, your time, and your presence. Good.